Okay, thank you all so much for your patience. We renegotiated the audio in hopes that it is a clearer, cleaner audio experience for everyone. Um, so we are going to start at McKenna Burton with Interwoven Realms. We will be going from Ohio University Art Gallery, Interwoven Realms straight into our 5 o'clock, maybe a little bit late stream with Trisolini Gallery and A Penny for Your Thoughts. So this will all be sort of lumped together. Thank you so much for your patience. And McKenna, thank you for doing your talk one more time. Yeah.
All right, well, as Courtney just said, my name is McKenna Burton, and I am a double major here at Ohio University with a BFA in ceramics and graphic design. A big reason why I chose ceramics is simply for its functionality, but also how you can do sculptural work as well, and just the 3D aspect of it. So before I jump into this whole thing, I'm going to read the artist statement for you guys. As an interdisciplinary artist, I use digital graphics and ceramic works to explore and embrace organization, design, color, and structure. My modern yet funky mid-century style allows me to break design and form traditions and embrace the eclectic side of sculpting and creating. With my background in ceramics and graphic design, I have started challenging the norm of organization, design, and structure through data visualization lamps. These ceramic lamps vary in shape and design and have data visualization graphic decals transferred onto the surface. Including 2D data graphics onto 3D ceramic lamps shows the connection of problem-solving disciplines that the mediums have within my approach to exploring the relationship between design and ceramics. The clean design in both materials and disciplines results from a clear transmission of ideas furthering my research into mixing organization, design, color, and structure. So to go deeper in that, there's probably a term in there that you aren't really familiar with, which is data visualization. To explain data visualization, it's very similar to what it sounds like. It's a visualized form of data. So I collected data over 12 weeks of how many hugs I give in a week. I find hugs to be, very important and can solve a lot of problems. So I wanted to create my data visuals off of that. I then transferred those visuals onto the ceramic pieces I have here. All these ceramic pieces were either wheel thrown or slab built. And then the process of putting the decal on is very fascinating. You print it out, you spray it with acrylic spray, and then you submerge it into water. The decal then pulls away from the piece. You then put it on from the backing. You then put it on the piece, and you fire it again, and it's permanently on there. So it's a very interesting way to show how graphic design and ceramics can be put together into one. As I am a double major, I do have 2 thesis shows, the one this week and then the graphic design show Jump Drawer next week. They both work together in certain ways. The one is more graphic design focused more on the data visualization aspect, and this is more focused on the forms themselves. The reason I chose to do these funky mid-century eclectic forms is because that very much reflects who I am as a person. I don't like the typical, interior design furniture that you see nowadays that's very modern, very anti-colorful, and the best example I can think of is the old McDonald's from when we were younger. That was really, really colorful compared to the modern gray McDonald's we have today. It's less inviting, and it doesn't really have the same impact that it used to when I was a kid. So I chose to do these very funky visuals because I kind of wanted to reflect the art I used to make as a kid, as I do want to be an art educator in the future. A lot of these designs I did simply just sitting down, scribbling, things like that. And then as I collected more data, I then created different forms in each of these pieces, each of the designs, to then reflect that. I feel that these pieces are very reflective of me as an individual. And the reason I chose the colored bulbs is because it's very fascinating to see how the colors of the visuals themselves change with the different colors of the bulbs themselves. And again, it just reflects the colorfulness that I wanted this to be. Instead of it being, the white version of a Home Depot lighting section, I kind of wanted to make it a party, exciting, colorful space. And I feel I really accomplished that. And that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Next up, we have Sarah Crouch.
Hi, my name is Sarah Crouch. I am a senior BFA student here at Ohio University with concentration in painting and drawing, and this is my body of work I have titled Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the maturing of a butterfly, or in this case, a moth. And each one of these moths represents a different emotion that I have explored throughout this past year and semester. My emotions are something that I kind of struggled with and struggled to have a connection with and accept. So I decided to take this time to explore how I felt in different situations and how I connected with each of these species. So first up, we have an emotion guide, which I based off of a field guide, to kind of help explain the different emotions for when I'm not here. But first up, we had the rosy maple moth, which represents my childhood joy and wonder. It's the feeling that I got when I would either go back home to my childhood home with my parents and think about summertime in the backyard with my sister. And just kind of like fun, fuzzy feelings. Next up, we have the polyphemus moth, which represents the calmness I feel after a fit of anger. And it's earthy. It reminds me of after a storm passes, when you can still smell the rain in the air and you can hear the thunder in the distance and sometimes see lightning. It's sitting in your bedroom kind of thinking about everything that's happened and why you were angry and why you felt that way. Next up is the leopard moth, which represents confusion, which is something that I struggle with accepting to feel, especially with how often I get confused sometimes. But it's spotty, it's unpredictable, and it just takes a minute to kind of take everything in. Next is the Luna moth, which represents my serenity and peace that I feel with myself. It's allowing me to explore everything that's in my mind, whether it's ideas for paintings and drawings or learning self-love and acceptance. And next, we're actually going to move over to this moth first, which is inspired by the death moth, and I went more with the route of the tarot card meaning of death, not so much the end of a life, but either the end of the story and the beginning of a new one, which is kind of something that I've come through this semester, especially with learning to accept myself and who I am and learn more about myself and who I will become. Next up is the first self-portrait I have done since my freshman year of college. And it is titled Self-Love. I have been doing special effects makeup since high school, and it's something that I use to help cope with essentially just myself. And when I wasn't feeling in my greatest, I didn't feel pretty enough, I would turn myself into something that I enjoyed. And I would learn about myself through different creatures and things. And last but not least is a hand pair stitch of wings, in which I've titled Self-Acceptance. And they represent me feeling finally free in these emotions to be myself and accepting who I am as a person, accepting my growth, especially over this year, because I am very proud of who I've become and how far I have traveled this semester, especially. Any questions?
Can you talk some about the wings?
Yes, so the wings are hand sewn. They're not perfectly symmetrical. It doesn't have that clean stitch that you get with a sewing machine, and it's a very personal connection, especially sitting in my studio countless hours making and crafting these wings. They're not perfect, they're not symmetrical, but I'm not perfect or symmetrical either. And that's something I've accepted with myself, that no matter what, I'm not going to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfection in my world, but it's something that I've learned to love and accept with all my heart. Anyone else? Thank you.
Next up, we have Jillian Golden.
So my name is Jillian Golden. I'm a digital illustrator and painter, and this is my thesis work, Reveries. So basically, My artwork it concentrates around several illustrations that focus on visual narratives. So my work, my work is a series of fantasy drawings, and with these drawings, I want to create a scene in which my viewer can get lost in and basically daydream about whatever might be happening in the scene. So here we have the setup of having my works projected, and over here is the kiosk where you can control like which image you want to see, and if you want to zoom in and see any extra details. And yeah, so my work is all digital, and I decided to have everything projected in order to create a more immersive setting, because in my work, lighting is a really important aspect. So as you can see, whenever I change the artwork, it creates a different lighting in the space. And so that's a really important aspect to what I do. I try and create a space in which you can just get lost and just spend time just imagining and living in fantasy, and yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Any questions?
Do you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite, and it would probably, well, I kind of have two favorites. This one was the one that initially started the series. It was the one that just set me on the path of fantasy artwork. And to be honest, I don't think I've bested this one. But recently I created this artwork, and I'm really proud of this one as well. I think it shows a lot of the growth that I've made since I've started. And yeah, those would probably be my two favorites. Any other questions?
Next, we have Francis F.
Hello. I'm a BFA student, and I'm in painting and drawing. And this is my thesis. It's two zines called Diary Parts 1 and 2. There'll be more probably in the future in the non-thesis thing, because these are really passionate projects, and it all kind of came out of going to the library as a kid and reading graphic novels by Durf or Daniel Clowes or Peter Bagg or something like that, where it was it all come out of the 90s. It was all very grungy. It was all very haphazard, and that sort of stuff stuck with me. Because I had never found myself gravitating towards art that was very smooth, or lines that were straight, or things that were very well colored. I've always liked things that were a little bit more messy. And so that sort of ethos stuck with me for my entire life. And comics have always just been part of that. And so I've made two zines about my everyday life, different things that happened to me, perils of being an adult for the first few years, living on your own, and generally they're just like slacker, furry, stoner comics, which is sort of, I don't know, I've always liked drawing animals. I think that they are fun to draw, more easy to draw, and so I've always stuck with them. I found it to be very fun to draw people I encountered in my everyday life as animals, and putting my sort of anxiety and my struggles into well, not struggles, because I'm a very well-off person. I live in the first world, but my anxieties and my petty worries, I like putting them in a fanciful setting with animals, or sometimes I put humans, and it all depends on how I feel. And I guess my ethos is just DIY, pen, paper, physical comics, and I would like to advance that more and more in the world. And as I grow up, and as I try to become a professional comic artist. Any questions?
And our final artist is Evelyn Asteria.
Hi, I'm Evelyn, and this is my BFA thesis exhibition, Energies Unbound, Reflections on Consumption. And I'm going to first start off by reading my artist statement. Energies Unbound, Reflections on Consumption ventures deep into the essence of our collective human dream, engaging with the profound notions of creation, consumption, and the inescapable reality of mortality. This exhibition is a personal contemplation of our existence, the feelings we expend and take in during our time on Earth, delving into the subconscious transfer of energy that underscores our presence in the world. My reference images, distorted through iterative blending processes resulting in a deep-fried aesthetic, serve as the foundation for my intuitive painting approach. Through the ethereal whispers of AI-generated imagery, distorted like dreams in the digital ether, the essence of emotional overwhelm is reflected. As mortal beings, we contribute to the eternal cycle of life and death, of consumption and creation. With this work, viewers are invited to confront mortality and reflect on the perpetual energy exchange that underscores our presence in the world. We must find resonance in the fleeting beauty of existence. So each of the paintings in my series reflects a different emotional energy related to humanity's consumption. So brutality, anxiety, devotion, and introspection. This explores the question, what does it mean to consume the world and for the world to consume us back? My paintings represent the liminal spaces between the spiritual and physical remnants we exchange during our time on Earth. The titles of these pieces are Flesh, Bones, Our Eternal Blue, Till Death Do Us, 6 Feet Under, and Swinging Party, I Am Meat on Display. So my reference images are created through AI, a process where I repeatedly blend images over and over again and then Photoshop different collage elements on top of that. And I end up with a distorted reference images that visualize this invisible energy transfer. I then paint these images on a large-scale canvas to give a greater importance to these subconscious feelings. I paint intuitively, diverting from the reference, placing my own energy into the painting, and I follow the brushstrokes as I go and primarily only use a fan brush. So throughout this series, I have taken inspiration from 19th century Romanticism, which historically placed emphasis on imagination, emotions, the natural world, and the celebration of the individual. I paint in a method that was popularized by 17th century old masters, Giorgiano and Tintoretto, meaning called pittura senza disegno, meaning painting without drawing. With no preliminary pencil sketch, I go straight into painting on the canvas, and I let the paint guide me as I work through the painting. So combining these historical techniques used by painting masters with new AI technology, I represent the ever-evolving cyclical nature of humanity in my artwork, reflecting my own personal anxieties of existing, as well as the overwhelming connective energies that flow between us all. Any questions?
Thank you all so much. That concludes our artist talks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining and bearing with us as we negotiated the audio settings. Totally 100% my fault. I tried something new that I learned did not work. We are going to stay live for the next gallery talks at Trisolini, A Penny for Your Thoughts, which is scheduled to start at 5 p.m. So I'm just going to allow this stream to keep going. Please come back at 5 and join us right where we are. I look forward to seeing you then in Trisolini Gallery. Thank you. Okay, thank you all for sticking around for our next group of BFA gallery talks. Tonight, we are happy to present A Penny for Your Thoughts, BFA thesis exhibition with Lily Sciulli, Jordan Frasure, Jenna Hanifan, and Callie Rathburn. I'm going to turn it over to them just one moment. The show will be up Thursday and Friday for the remainder of this week from 12 to 5 p.m. And join us tomorrow evening for the reception from 6 to 8 p.m. At Trisolini Gallery in Baker Center. Again, thank you so much for your patience with our audio, and I look forward to the gallery talks. Thank you. Turning it over to you all.
Thank you so much, Courtney. This is our show, A Penny for Your Thoughts. And we are going to start out with Lily Sciulli.
Hi, I'm Lily Sciulli. I'm a senior BFA painting and drawing major. This is my thesis called Snapshots of Spontaneity, Painting Everyday Lives. There are 7 pieces total in this collection. They're all oil paintings. So my work deals with social anxiety and how sometimes in social situations I feel like an alien with a how-to human manual, but I can't quite nail faking it. In my work, I capture others and nearby social interactions that appear comforting and inviting. I then paint my desire to belong as I am, except in these paintings, I join in with fluidity and ease. A pivotal transition for socializing and getting to meet new people was the transition between high school to college, and that was halted due to COVID. And there are still, things aren't still back to normal. In these images, I'm inspired by candid moments of figures in public settings. I paint with an ambient and slightly surreal color and light to capture the mood of what it feels like to live in these low-income Midwest towns. These paintings are places that I visit often. If you're from Athens, you'll recognize most. The process in which I create these works is I start with a wash of a color that is the overall hue of the painting. And then I go in with the paint, working from background to foreground, mostly in one layer with figures dropped in last. And this creates little breaks where the wash can be seen and creates an energy and unity in the work. When I get these reference images, I go out and look for interesting compositions, colors, and lighting. Everyone has cameras nowadays with their phones, and so it's important for me that my paintings have a separate identity from the photo references that I take. With that, my style is in between impressionist and realist, and it is important for me to leave the brushstrokes in the final work. My main goal is to capture the overall ambiance and feeling of what it's like to be in these interactions rather than copying directly from a photo. I want to create a relationship of places for the viewers to connect with, even if they aren't from these towns. We'll look at this first piece. It's called Tony's. With this, it shows the energy and brushstrokes in the light and how it's done to create sort of a movement and feeling of being in these patio bars. The next one is Lucky's. It exemplifies how color can make a unity in the pieces, and it's important for setting the atmosphere of the place. And then in this last work that I'll show you, it's called Late Night Diner. This work is kind of a keystone piece of this whole collection that I've created, showing how the brush, the light, and color kind of all come together to create a unifying feeling. My overall work with these paintings and collection is to have viewers look around at the world around them and observe how I do. Yeah, if there's any questions. Thank you.
Good. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Hanifan. My work is a little bit interesting. Maybe interesting isn't the right word. Mine has a lot to do with identity and mental health, especially 5 years ago, where I tried to end my life because of dysphoria and depression. And those years since then, I've had to rebuild my life from the ground up so I could enroll back into the university and finish my senior year. And that's what this is for me. So to make a long story short, I tried to jump off a bridge. And because I was not successful because the cops found me, I felt like I was living a fever dream. And it felt dark and depressing a lot of the time. So when I made these paintings, I wanted to convey like a fever dream, like going through something that doesn't quite feel real, but you know it is. And granted, this is very, a little bit dramatized, but it's still how I felt and what I was thinking. So there's 3 paintings in this series so far. I call this series The Girl Who Stared Into the Abyss and It Stared Back. So the first painting right here is Waters of the Abyss, and it depicts the bridge and what I was feeling that night. And the waters were twisting and turning below me, and it just felt very emotionally charged. Even though it didn't quite look like that, that's what my mind thought it was. And you can see the darkness inside there, and it was a very intense thing. But you can see at the end, by where I'm sitting, there's a mirror. Because how would you feel if you were in that? How would it be? Would you want empathy? Or would you want support or help? The other piece down here is Transforming Bones. During that time, I was terrified that I was going to be misidentified after jumping. I'm transgender, so I was just really nervous about someone thinking I was male and being buried as such, or not being identified. So that was talking about that fear. And even after dealing with all of these suicidal ideation and depression, I still dealt with a large amount of self-harm, which is something I try to keep away from myself. I'm not always successful, but it is what it is. So that's what this painting right here is about. And this one is called Every Rose Has Her Thorn. And I tend to love the color purple. I think everybody in my group knows that about me. And I also really love roses. So this series is going to be an ongoing series that has roses and color combinations of purple and yellow. And in all of the compositions, you can see mixed media representations. Like I have actual fake flower petals in here with the textures. I love to play with texture. And you can see even a bandana in that one, and the vines going through the skull with the hourglass. And then over here on transforming bones, you can still see textural elements. There's no mixed media in that one really, but there are texture elements. And same with every rose. You can even see some lace that I tried to make look like a sleeve. But I feel these paintings have been very beneficial for me. Yes, they have been difficult, but just because something is hard doesn't mean you shouldn't try it out. All right, thank you.
All right, hi everybody, I'm Jordan Frasure. I'm a senior getting my BFA in painting and drawing, but more importantly, I'm a feminist oil painter and I discuss the callous dynamic between patriarchal structures and the contemporary woman. So in the grand scheme of things, I want people to more deeply consider the topics that I cover in my work, which includes healthcare, expanded fears of motherhood, trauma, etc. And I do this as a consciousness raising effort. It puts into perspective how feminist issues and the dynamic have changed over time. So in my process, at first I go through research, which occurs most frequently in my women's gender and sexuality studies classes, particularly in feminist theory. So first I'll isolate an issue, typically something that is quote unquote hot in culture today. And then second, I'll read feminist theory, identifying which facet of feminism would best encompass the issue. So this ranges from radical feminism to ecofeminism, liberal feminism, etc. So then I'll create discussions with my peers or interviews, and then I'll find where that feminist theory applies in the contemporary. So I'll generate compositions, taking reference photos, building references on Photoshop, etc., or even sometimes posting sign-up sheets so people can volunteer to be my models. Then I'll project or freehand the image onto wood board, underpaint, and then apply thin layers of paint, typically resulting in about 3 or 4 layers. So I have a whole plethora of inspiration behind my work, but this includes and is not limited to the radical lesbians, Adrienne Rich, Audre Lorde, Shulamith Firestone, Winona LaDuke, Judith Butler, Julie Serrano, Margaret Sanger, Emma Goldman, the Scum Manifesto, and the Red Stockings Manifesto. So some of my artistic preferences that you'll see in this work, I like to do high contrast color palettes with dramatic compositions to support the intensity of my message. And I have dedications within this show to show who or what has inspired my work. I also enjoy creating a duality between feelings of validation and discomfort with the intention of being memorable or furthering the discussion. So with this practice, I intend in the future to continue expanding upon feminist themes, covering things such as intersectional feminism, postmodern feminism, etc. But in the future, I'd like to create works that spotlight the detrimental qualities of white feminism. And this work is important because it captures the state of feminist affairs and destroys popularized and incorrect notions of feminist thinking, such as the man-hating agenda. And it puts the spotlight on otherwise overlooked issues. But my main goal with this collection of work is for people to leave with a better understanding, compassion, and respect for their female peers, or simply wanting to know more. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Hi everyone, I'm Callie Rathburn and I'm a BFA painting and drawing major. This is my show, Past Fires. In 2023, 89% of youth reported using a flavored e-cigarette, and flavors are the main reason for youth nicotine use. Nicotine is extremely addictive and can harm adolescent brain development. Past Fires was created in an effort to spark conversations about addiction and corporate responsibility. E-cigarette companies use flavors similar to candies, which attracts younger audiences. And by juxtaposing the innocence of candies with the dangers of nicotine addiction, a visualization of how this marketing tactic has normalized vaping among increasingly younger generations was born. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your wonderful work and research and time and energy. Thank you all for your gallery talks. And thank you all, audience, for bearing with us tonight. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll tune in next year.